Most people will never achieve financial freedom. This is not because of laziness or stupidity. It is because the system is designed to keep people busy, confused, and comfortable enough not to revolt. By the time most people realize that the rules of the game are deceptive, it is already too late. Why? Because the rules were never taught to them. Here is what no one has told you. Everyone talks about budgeting, working hard, buying a house, and investing in the stock market. They present financial freedom as a matter of discipline. But let's be honest, you cannot reach it with discipline alone. If it were possible, every nurse, teacher, and factory worker who spent their life saving would retire rich. But it does not happen. The reason is not effort, it is design. Financial freedom is not only about money, it is also about control, time, choices, and security. Being able to say no to your boss, a bill, or a crisis. This kind of freedom is not simply given, it is constructed. And to construct it, you need to understand what is blocking people. Let's start with history. For most of human history, wealth was about land. Land meant food. Food meant power. In medieval Europe, 90% of the population worked the land for someone else. They were called serfs, but in reality they were workers trapped by debt, rent, and fear of starvation. Does this sound familiar? Let's look at the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, people were no longer tied to land. They were tied to wages. Factories replaced the fields, but the dynamic stayed the same. Work long hours, earn just enough to survive, stay dependent. In the 20th century, a new idea emerged, the middle class. A class with wages high enough to buy a house, raise a family, and perhaps retire. But even then, real freedom was rare. Schools, employment, consumer culture. They were all designed to keep people earning and spending, not to encourage thinking about escape routes. Now we arrive at the 21st century. Productivity has peaked, technology has exploded, but real wages for most people have barely changed. The middle class is shrinking. Meanwhile, the cost of living, housing, health care, and education has risen. Debt has become the norm. Student loans, credit card debt, auto loans, mortgages, medical expenses. The average American household now carries over $100,000 in total debt, and that is just the average. Now ask yourself, who benefits when most people are constantly paying something back? Now add inflation, the silent thief. A dollar today does not have the purchasing power it had 20 years ago. What are the so-called solutions to this problem? They print more money. Low interest rates stimulate the economy. But every time asset prices rise, stocks, real estate, commodities. Those who already own assets get richer. Those who own nothing fall further behind. This is not a mistake. It is the engine. A financial system fueled by debt, lubricated by inflation, and maintained through confusion. The most crucial point, it trains you to blame yourself. Didn't save enough? That's your fault. Can't buy a house? You're not trying hard enough. Struggling to live paycheck to paycheck? Try budgeting better. The system never takes the blame. It just continues selling you another app, another course, another product, while keeping you trapped in the same cage. This is where the truth begins to hurt, but also where it becomes important. Most people will never achieve financial freedom because it requires more than income. It also requires leverage. And most people never reach it. They work for money. They exchange their time for wages. But real wealth comes when money works for you, assets generate income, and your time becomes optional. The transition from labor to leverage is where freedom resides. And most people are never taught to pursue it. Most people are stuck in a loop that feels like progress but really isn't. Find a job, take a loan, acquire things on credit, raise your living standards, fight for promotions, pay taxes, and perhaps retire one day. But the problem is not limited to debt alone. There are also the dependencies that come with it. When you are dependent on a paycheck, you avoid taking risks. If your life is entirely financed, you can't say no. And when your identity is tied to your consumption, you will spend your entire life working to maintain an image you were led to believe you needed. Now let's talk about the upper class, the ones who are truly financially free. They play by a different set of rules. They do not exchange their time for money. They own. They delegate responsibilities. They grow. They understand taxes, legal loopholes, trusts, holding companies. They think in years, not pay periods. And most importantly, they keep the system so opaque that you can never learn to think like they do. Schools do not teach about financial leverage. They do not explain how inflation moves wealth upward. They do not tell you that passive income is not just a dream. It is the foundation of how the wealthy stay wealthy. Instead, you are fed a constant diet of hustle culture, lifestyle branding, and the illusion of merit. Work harder, push longer, stay afloat. It is a treadmill disguised as a journey. And when you burn out, they will sell you therapy, coffee, or a weekend retreat, but never the truth. The truth is this: financial independence is a rebellion, a refusal of dependency, a rejection to accept that you must exchange your life energy for someone else's dream. But you cannot rebel against something you don't understand. That is why financial education is necessary. It is the foundation of independence. It begins by asking uncomfortable questions. Where is your money going each month? How much of your income is tied to your labor? How can you change that? What skills do you have that can compound? Which assets can you build or acquire that generate a steady income? And just as importantly, what can you eliminate? Which expenses, assumptions, or dependencies on convenience and approval are trapping you? Because real wealth is not just about having more. It is about needing less. This isn't about living a minimalist lifestyle, but strategically, where every dollar saved is a seed planted, not a joy denied. This is where mindset matters. The average person reacts to money. The financially free person, however, plans around it. They create buffers. They anticipate fluctuations. They understand the difference between price and value, urgency and importance. They do not chase the market. They position themselves to overcome it. This is not just theory. History confirms it. Families that preserved wealth for generations did not do it by guessing the stock market. They owned land, businesses, intellectual property, assets that generate income regardless of the economy. They passed down knowledge, legal structures, and strategic positioning. It was not just about money. It was understanding codified into systems. Meanwhile, everyone else was directed to be consumers. Earn, spend, repeat. Be thankful for a job. If you don't have one, feel ashamed. Take loans for education. Take loans for transportation. Take loans for housing. But do not question who profits. Do not question how money is created. Do not question why. The more you work, the less it seems to matter. But now you are asking, and that is the first crack in the illusion. So, what is the practical path? It is not flashy. It is not viral. It will not make you rich overnight, but it is real. First, reduce fragility. Cut the obligations that make you reactive. This may mean downsizing, selling a vehicle, or moving somewhere more affordable. but every dollar of flexibility you create is a dollar of regained power. Second, don't just make investments, create assets, skills that earn in the market, businesses that grow beyond your time, investments that generate income while you sleep. Even a well-built social network counts as an asset. Focus on long-term thinking, progress through compounding. Third, protect your mind well. Don't get swept up in news, advertisements, hype, or fear. Study history. Strive to understand systems. Learn how incentives shape behavior. The calmer and more curious you are, the harder it becomes for the system to influence you. Fourth, share the knowledge. True power is not concentrated in one place. It spreads. The more people understand how the game is played, the sooner the game begins to change. Because the truth itself is that most people will never be financially free. Not because they can't, but because they never learned how they could be. They were given a script, told this is life, and punished if they deviated. But you do not have to follow that script. You can write a new one. It starts with clarity, then comes control, and finally freedom. Not freedom imagined by fantasy. True freedom. The kind where you get to choose how you spend your day. A life where emergencies don't ruin you. A world where money is a tool, not a tyrant. And it is not easy, but it is achievable. And now it's time to begin. If you want to see the financial side of history, like the video, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe, because the next story might be more familiar than you think.